What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. Today, we're going to talk about something that's it's kind of in the news a lot. It's kind of a popular thing. It's kind of a new new thing with Bruce Jenner coming out being transgendered and calling himself Caitlyn or something like that. When I tell you guys I speak from experience, and I have a lot of experience with a lot of things, it's the truth. And with this whole transgender, transsexual thing, when I was growing up in Rhode Island, there was no transgender, transsexuals. I mean, if anybody did cross-dressing or something like that, it was in the privacy of their own home because it was not like it was a frowned upon thing at that point, I guess. And then in 2005, I was going to move down here to Maryland with my girlfriend at the time. And I had applied online at Gold's Gym. Now, you follow me, because this whole thing will come into the transsexual, transgender thing in a minute. And I got a phone call from Melody, who is the fitness manager, saying, we'd like you to come in for an interview, in-person interview. Now, it's like an 8.5-hour drive to Maryland from maybe 9, sometimes 10 hours to get to Maryland from Rhode Island. So I was like, shit. I said, okay, well, I got the message. So I called back. I said, I'm looking for Melody. And this person, John, answered the phone. So I said, I'm looking for Melody. He said, she's not here right now. I can take a message. I said, tell her this is Jerry. I'll be down there tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. Yada, yada, yada. So Melody had called back. We got everything set up. I drove down to Maryland. Now, when I drove down to Midtown, D.C., which is a predominantly gay area and lesbian and transsexual and all these different types of things that I had no idea about, in Midtown, D.C., which is right next to DuPont Circle, the DuPont area. So I pull up, and there's nowhere to park. There's no meters, nothing like that. I couldn't find the parking garage. So I actually called, and John answered the phone again. I said, hey, this is Jerry Ward. I'm here. I don't know where to park. And he said, go around the corner. There's a parking garage. Bring the ticket with you. I'll stamp it at the front desk so you don't have to pay for parking. I'll validate it. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Now, we don't have a lot of shit like that in Rhode Island. We had like the Providence Place Mall. That's the only place that had like a ticketed thing at the time in the garage and stuff. So I go in. I said, you go to the front desk. I said, hey, I'm looking for John. And then the girl kind of looks at me strange. She goes, you mean Jana? And I said, no, I think it's a guy. I think his name is John. I just talked to him on the phone. So she just kind of went, yeah, Jana. So she goes, Jana to the front desk and blah, blah, blah. They page her. So she comes walking up. Now, here's my first view of Jana. She's about 6'2", pretty masculine looking. So my first inclination is not that it's a transgender woman or a transsexual woman, is that I'm in Gold's Gym in D.C. in a big city. It's a woman on steroids. That's what my first thought was. So she walks up and literally goes, what's up, dude? And like kind of like this surfer kind of like personality. And I was like, hi, I'm Jerry. She's like, hey, I'm Jana. And I'm like, okay, it's a girl on steroids. It's definitely a girl on steroids. So she brings me upstairs to see Melody in the office. And, I go through the whole interview process. And the way out, Jana's like, I hope to see you around. Take care, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever. It's my first ever time experience meeting someone that, I couldn't figure out whether it was a guy or a girl on steroids or whatever the case may be. So long story short, I wind up working there. And I would probably be the first one there in the morning. I lived in Maryland. I would take the metro in, or I would drive in, be there about 6 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I didn't have clients, so I would just be there. And there's like an office back there where I would do some paperwork and stuff. And Jana would be on the computer she ran the front desk doing her computer work. And we would talk and shoot the shit, and she was pleasant as shit. It would just be like me and her before the other people came in. And one day, and over time, it took a few months, and over time she said something about, before my operation. And, I'd known her well enough to be like, okay, I can go ahead and ask now. And I was like, what operation? And she just smiled and she said, from turning from a man to a woman. And she showed me a picture of herself as a man. So I looked at her and I said, you mean you actually had the operation where you removed your male genitalia? And she said, yes. And I was thinking to myself, I said, wow, man, that's a ballsy, brave thing to do. Because now it's like they got TV shows and Caitlyn Jenner and all this bullshit. Like, back then, like coming from Rhode Island, not seeing any of that stuff, now I was like, wow, I don't really understand where this is coming from or how it happened. Like, I didn't understand anything about it. And Jana was very uplifting about life in general. She was a former meth addict. We had that in common, that we were both former drug addicts, drug users. We both liked house music. She used to go to the clubs in D.C. I used to go to the clubs in New York. So, like, we kind of bonded, and she was really cool. And she got close to my girlfriend at the time, Angelica. And I remember turning 30. I'm going to be turning 40 this year. So it's about, 10 years ago that when I was turning 30, I was really upset. I was leaving my 20s, and in your 20s, you're still young. I pictured 30s being old. And when I was younger, I never even pictured hitting past 22. I was supposed to be dead by 22. That's how I was living my life. And I honestly wanted to be dead by 22. So now I'm hitting 30, and in my mind, you're hitting 30, you need to really start thinking about the future, settling down, all these different things, like buying a house, like all these different things are going through my head, and I was starting to get really freaked out and depressed. And as soon as I turned 30, like midnight, I was really freaked out. So I had to work on my birthday the next day, and sure enough, I go in the morning, and Angelica had actually called ahead and talked to Jana before I even got there. And she said, you know, Jerry's really upset about his birthday. He's turning 30. He's depressed about it. He feels like he's getting old. You know, I know that those of you that are like 40 and 50 are like, shut the fuck up. But those of you that are like 20 years old may actually understand what I'm talking about. So she had sent the fax over. Angelica said, happy birthday and stuff. Like, it was like a birthday card on the fax that she wanted to make sure Jana got so that she could give it to me at work to kind of cheer me up and stuff. And, you know, I sat down with Jana in the office, and I said, yeah, I said, you know, here's the situation. This is why I'm bummed out. So I'm depressed. And she said, you know, she was in her late 40s. And she said, you know, I didn't really start living until I was in my 40s. You know, life changes, life gets better. And she was very comforting and uplifting about the whole situation. And by the time, you know, the other employees got there, my spirits were lifted. You know, she took time out of her day, and she was very understanding and knew, you know, and then here I am going like, you know, I'm turning 30. Big fucking deal. Look at all the shit that this person has been through in their life. They've had a gender identity crisis since they were young age. They had to go through, you know, all these different transitions and stuff, do the surgeries, take the hormones, do all these things. And I'm complaining about the fact that I'm turning 30. What a fucking pussy I am. That's what ran through my head. And, you know, day after day, we'd have these different discussions. And, you know, she was there from the morning till like mid-afternoon. That was her shift, and she would leave. She ran the front desk. She was in charge of the front desk. And it wasn't long after that my boss and one of my great friends, Jem Elliott, decided to pluck me out as a trainer and turn me into a manager. And once that happened, I was moved to Rockville location at Rockville, Maryland, which is not really anywhere near Midtown, D.C. It's a metro right away, but it's not any closer. And, you know, my best friend down here at the time, Manuel, he came from D.C. with me over there, and he was my assistant manager over there. We were running that place. And, you know, you kind of lose touch with everything that's going on. You get involved in life, and you move on. You know, and you remember people, you know, you wish, oh, I wish I had time to hang out with them and stuff like that. And then, you know, I don't remember where I heard it. I think it was, I don't know if it was Jem or his girlfriend Diane, or if it was our buddy Robbie Hardcore, Rob Schumann, we call him Robbie Hardcore, had called me and said, did you hear about Jana? Now, this is years later. This is like a couple of years ago. I said, no, I don't know, how's she doing? I figured, I don't know, maybe she got promoted to the fucking president of the company. So I don't know. He said she was in a bad car accident, and they gave her a lethal dose of painkillers at home, and she's dead. And I kind of sat back, and I was like, what? And I'm like, everything that this person went through, all the lives that she touched and people she lifted up, and it ends with a fucking medical drug overdose? That's how it ends for her? And that was bad enough. But her parents, who never accepted her as a woman, decided they were going to bury her, open casket, and memorialize her as a man that she was born, which would be the biggest fucking slap in the face ever to Jana and who she was as a person. And I just remember sitting back on, you know, and Rob was like, you know, we're thinking about putting something together for her as her friends, a memorial service later on. None of us are going to the one her parents are putting on, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, yeah, just call me and let me know, you know, we'll see what's up. And, you know, now it's becoming like a popular fad because Bruce Jenner came out and did it. You know, there's TV shows now popping up left and right. I've seen at least 3 advertisements for 3 different TV shows about transgender fucking people. And it's like they've been here all along, and people have been scared of them, and people have thought poorly of them and thought less of them. But I'll never, ever forget Jana. Who she was, what she stood for, the things she went through, how she made me step back and change my thought process and some of my preconceived notions and my prejudices about how someone would be mentally stable in her situation and stuff like that. Really changed my view on a lot of things. So, you know, I guess in closing this story time, we did the story time today. We haven't had a story time in a while. In the closing of the story, I guess what the take-home message is, what I got from Jana's life, is everybody's going down their own path. And everybody should be accepted for going down their own path. And they shouldn't be looked down upon because their path may be different than yours. And everybody can learn something from each other. And the final lesson is, it's going to be over quick. Life is too short. No matter what lessons you learn, no matter how many lives you touch, it's going to be over like that in the blink of an eye. 10 years went by in the blink of an eye, and I'm 10 years closer to my death, whenever that is. And I'm proud to have known her when I did. So, rest in peace, Jana. Biochemistrytraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biochemistrytraining.com is a blog. It's the Jana Bicep, and we're out.